Hey party people, and welcome back to MVM. And today I'm here with Ryan.
Hi everybody.
And we are here to talk about Mistwind. This is the first kind of big box game here by First Fish Games. I've kind of played around with this in 2019-ish, I believe, 2020-ish.
Well, there's been a pandemic, so
it's been a while.
A few years coming. Yeah. This is a big box game from them. I mean, This is going to have the full production, big table presence, lots of cool
big
miniatures,
shift.
tokens, cards, things like
shift.
that. This is from the design team that did Sagrada. Yeah. It's a very different game, but you may have heard of that. They're very good at creating games that require you to think about the puzzle and try to solve the puzzle.
Yes, this is very much that.
And this is very much that kind of game for sure.
So you got a little bit of action selection. You got a little bit of the network kind of building. You're going to be building things along the way. I would say you use these as placements, so that's kind of worker placement.
A little bit of worker placement.
Yeah, a little bit of worker placement. So you are basically in this world where you are picking up and delivering things. You have this whale riders that are going to be moving across the board, fulfilling demand tokens, so you get tokens. And then you're also going to have some area majority at the end of the game, depending on what tokens you have.
Let's not gloss over that. You just said whale riders out of the blue.
I know.
Like that was a thing.
It's a thing. It is. Literally whales are on the board.
You have these really cool miniatures that are literally like flying whales, and you're flying them around. You're not sailing boats here.
Right. You're not
that's
sailing
important
boats.
to note. You're literally flying these through the sky, delivering to all these different nations on the board and all these different spaces.
You're not in like the 1800s with your little steamboat. No, you're flying in the freaking sky. All right. Okay, so how does the turn go? There are 4 rounds in the game. If you're playing with 5 players, there will be a 5th round. But generally, what you're going to do is you're going to start the game by looking at these tokens right here. And they're numbers 1 through 5. You are going to decide what one you want to get out of the way. And I'll tell you why this is important. But for right now, I'm just going to take, let's say, the 2 out. And then so Ryan will choose 1. You'll get them back in and around and whatnot. But that's for right now. That's going to be out. Now, what do you use these tokens for? Well, the first thing you do on your turn is place one of them in any one of these areas around the board. You have your resource area here, you have your characters here, you have your labor board over here, and then you have your port actions. And we'll cover each one of them. I'll start over here where you have these resource areas. So for example, if I play a 4, there's only a spot for 1 token. I place the 4 there and I take the resources. Now back here we have a resource board that you're going to be moving things across for metal, wood, krill, and money for coins. So you'll get these things. The more powerful you get, it'll change the resources that you get. But that's generally how this area works.
Yeah, and these tokens stay out on the board. So if Jeremy uses that 4,
blocked.
We can't take that action. If we have a 4, we're now limited to the other 3 areas of the board. And those resources are going to be wildly useful. You're going to be using the wood and the steel to build a lot. You're either building more of these whales or you're building these outposts that increase the size of your network, which is very helpful. You're getting krill, which is going to be what you feed your whales to move them around the board. And then coins are going to help you with utility for taking a lot of these different actions. For example, that whole character deck up there, if you assign your token to one of those 5 spots, you can hire that character by paying the coin cost on the card.
And there are some that are instant, so they're going to give you instant benefits. There's ones that you can use in kind of supportive actions and things of that nature. And then you also have in-game scoring ones for having certain resources that you delivered during the game. Some of them, like that, what I have here, I got one here where you just flip it face down and then you get to place one of your outposts out there. There's a lot of actions in here that kind of help with the network building, so you're not just stuck to getting locked out of actions. This one here actually changes the way I move around. It says, hey, I can use coins instead of krill to move around, so it supports the action and I can move a lot faster.
Let's talk about the ports next, because the ports are a little bit special in that this space actually multiple people can go to. But there's a caveat there. If I go to someplace, like if I take this 4 action, you get to take the action that's printed on the top of the card. For all of these, this is how you're generally going to build things onto the board. Each one of these cards is going to have some kind of icon that's going to say, build in a specific spot. Like this is to build in a coffee location. We'll talk about why that matters later. But you'll build in these specific areas, either your whales or your outposts as you go. But other players can come along and take that action too, stacking their, except it would be a 4.
Yeah, it'd be a 4.
Stacking their tokens on top of your tokens. And at the end of the round, whoever's the highest gets to also take this bonus action printed on the signpost. So here there is actually a little bit of competition. You want to push your luck a little bit and be the last person to go to one of these locations, but you might want to take the action early because it supports something else you're going to be doing on your turn.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities that arise when these come out because everything's going to get watched at the end of the round, which we'll talk about. But you're also just going to see just a lot of things change your mind and say, hey, I can actually pounce on this, helps me build my network.
Yeah.
Those types of things like that.
Well, and this board too, the labor board off to the side, it lets you do a lot of these same things, but kind of in a tricky way. Like you've got an action that lets you just automatically take that signpost, or you've got one that lets you spend coins to build instead of coming to these ports, one that just lets you draw characters and hope and get one for free. So this labor board is going to be a hot commodity as well. It's also the only way to take the first player marker.
Ooh, first player is worth 2 points.
First player does matter because there's definitely a little bit, I don't want to say there's a race element, but there is kind of a rush if multiple people are trying to deliver goods because this is a pick up and deliver game.
Yes.
And you'll notice that each one of these possible areas wants very specific goods. So if another player is acting before you, they might go deliver the same good you're trying to deliver. They don't want that good anymore, and you're just kind of out of luck.
So let's just talk about the board. So once you take these actions and you start moving around, the first thing you need to know is that, yes, this is mandatory. You're going to place the token, you take the action. And then you're going to get to your optional actions, and they are done in order. So you can move your whale riders here. And the way you move them is kind of interesting because if there is no outpost here, or there's no more of these guys, you're actually going to pay 1 krill to move from that spot to the next spot there. You pay the resource. But if you have an outpost there, you can move there for free. So it's kind of an interesting little thing that as you actually open up the game as you start to build more outposts, or you have your guys in the right place.
For sure. As you're putting out these outposts, you're trying to think about where you want to go because like Jeremy said, I might spend a krill to move in, but then I can move out of my outpost for free into another outpost, out of that one for free, and I can continue moving around the board as long as I'm hitting my outposts. I don't have to spend krill, and there's no limit to how far you can move. So if you build your network right, you can completely cross the board. You can come get a good over here and deliver it all the way over there. And there are, again, reasons you want to do that because there's a little bit of not really area majority here, but each one of these different regions has their own colored goods. And if you deliver the most to one particular region, and you'll know that because you'll end up with a stack of goods tokens from that region, you're going to get some extra points. So it might be better to deliver to the one farther away, but you really need a network that supports that.
So speaking of which, so the next thing you're going to do is you're going to pick up or you're going to put something down. So movement, then you're going to pick something up either at the location you're at. So the locations that you're at have different icons. Some will just be krill, so then you have some extra movement. Some will have an actual specific resource like oil, textiles, things of that nature. You'll pick them up and actually physically put one of the cubes that matches that in there. Now you also may end up at a specific port that needs something. So you may have something that matches what they need. If you do, you drop it there, and you can do that out here in the capital. And if it matches one of these tokens, you drop the piece off, and then you take the tile, and that one is yours. You're good to go.
Yeah. All of these tiles are worth points at the end of the game. And also, like I said, the area majority is points at the end of the game. So you need to keep those things in mind, but there's a couple other things you need to think about when building your network. And that's these demand tokens that are on every single one of these regions. They want you to connect to that capital to a very specific location on the board. The first person to do that is going to get points. The next people to do so are going to get a little bit of less points. And you have a network card in your hand that wants you to connect some very specific areas as well for points. So it's not just about moving around the board quickly. It's about trying to score points by fulfilling these objectives.
Oh, but wait, there's more. One thing that else is there, we also have these public ones as well. Interestingly enough, in the prototype, there's a stack of A, B, C's, and D's. So there's different ways to score these. Also, these are kind of like in-game achievement tiles. So you're going to be paying attention to those as well. There's a lot of different ways to score during this game. And you really got to pay attention to the opportunities that happen between rounds just as much as kind of preparing for the end game. Of course, you want to have more of these demand tokens. They're going to contribute to end-game victory points, but there are some opportunities through these character cards as well and different things.
Well, this game is definitely all about puzzling out those opportunities. I mentioned that earlier, that there's like a puzzle happening here, and there's a lot of times, especially later in the round, when you only have 1 or 2 tokens left and the actions you really wanted to take were blocked a big part of the game is trying to get to where you want to go, maybe through a different way. Maybe somebody took the action that gave you the krill, maybe all the resources were blocked, but maybe there's a port thing that you can trigger to get the resource you need, or maybe there's a character card you can buy that gets you what you need, or maybe you can come to the 5 spot here and top deck and hope that maybe you get the thing that you need, which can happen. So there's always, almost always, a way to get to where you want to go. You just need to be ready to pounce on those opportunities when they present themselves. And there's a lot of competition for those spots.
And you got to have resources, and the resources are how you get outposts out. You're going to be paying one of 2 different resources, and then you're going to be paying a lot more resources to get these guys out. But then you have opportunities to use your money over here. So there's a real big puzzle. There's a puzzle and timing that you have to kind of figure out. When am I going to be able to build? Am I going to use money to build? Do I have action cards that may help me get things out? Am I paying attention to a lot of things? This is the best way to describe Mistwind is that it's a really interesting puzzle. I think that's the thing, that the action selection and the puzzle part of this game is where it's all at, where the fun is
and
at.
it's so unique, especially that now that you've seen this whole overview, you understand it. In the beginning, when you have to decide which token to discard, it can be a painstaking decision, because it almost always ends up that when you get down to it, you're like, man, I wish I had kept that one. That's the one I need right now that could get me where I need to go.
That face down one can hurt.
That face down one can really hurt. But yeah, there's just there's a lot going on. And also it's worth mentioning, this is what a game is going to kind of look like towards the end. It's definitely something where you're building. Early on, you maybe just have 1 or 2 outposts and you're just kind of using them to boost your movement, spending a lot of krill. But by the end of the game, you really do have a network that's going to let you just zoom through the skies.
So after a person has taken their mandatory action to place in the token, they've moved their guys around, they've picked up and they've put down, that kind of thing like that. A next player is going to go in clockwise order. We'll continue doing that until we run out of these tokens, these action tokens here, and then we will go to our end round phase. And what we do there is we take all the cards out from these rows. So now you're going to have a whole nother set of opportunities to see. Nothing happens over here. We take our boards back. If there's any achievements that we need to pull off, we will award. We will do that as well. At the end of the game, we are going to score for the stuff that we have here in front of us. So during the game, in the beginning of the game, you get these cards here. These cards are going to be for specific routes and connections that you have during the game. You could get 1 lower point scoring, or you're going to get the higher point scoring. It's really just making sure you have those connections set up. And I should have mentioned this, but you can actually have your connections by the combination of your whales and the output. So this is really important how you even position yourself in that.
Another really cool thing about these cards too, and these network tiles on the board, is you just have to show that you've gotten it. And you don't have to sit there and wait for the end of the game and say, okay, I have this network at the end of the game. If you get this within the first couple rounds, you can reveal it and say, hey, I've got it now, and then you can move your guys around. You don't need to worry about holding on to it. I think that's a pretty unique decision.
So you have your tokens that you've been delivering for 1 and 2 points. You have your different locations, these nation ones that are there. And by the way, there's different ones of these too, and they change according to player count. You have your tokens down here as well. You also have the cards that will have point scoring on them as well. And then also, at the end of the game, depending on how many of these you have, you're going to contribute to the majorities for each one of these 4 different areas in the game, and whoever has that will get a 5-point award as well.
Last thing, hey, if you're still the first player by the end of the game, you're holding this little cool pyre wheel, you get some extra points too. It's a fun little thing.
Little sting about our game there. A little sting about that.
I grabbed it right at the end.
Yeah, right at the end. All right, so that hopefully will give you a good overview of this. Remember, this is a prototype. And remember, if you have any questions or, leave it in the comments below. Of course, there will be changes between now and the end there. All right, party people, you take care and have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us on MVM.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.